Hi, welcome to Part of My Friendship. This is me, 143. If you don't have a friend, you have one now. Thanks for stopping by this week. I am going to be talking about two of the places that we went this past week that I really want to give a review on. I don't often give reviews, so for me to do this is very, very special and something that is actually kind of near and dear to my heart. We went on a family vacation, and the girls went with us for a couple of reasons. Some would say that I'm crazy about my dogs, and I don't know that I would say that. Just kidding. But anyways, so part of the reason why, anybody knows that when you go on vacation or when you do anything in life, when you have animals or you have dogs, you kind of have to plan your life around them. So we knew that we had a vacation coming up to Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. We were going to be going to Doggywood the one day. And then the next day we were going to be going, out and about. We were going to be there for about 3 or 4 days. And so with that, we had to come and we had to plan for it. And with the girls, both being, French bulldogs, I worry about the heat. And, one of my past episodes was all about, the heat. And I worry about them being in that kind of situation. And unfortunately, I'm overly paranoid about just anybody watching them. And, it's not about somebody just coming in and taking care of them. It's about, let me put it this way. With as fragile as they are in the heat, accidents can happen quickly. And if I can prevent an accident, I want to. So, and I would rather, if there's an accident that happens, I would rather it be my accident than somebody else's accident. Because I know that if, God forbid, something happened to the girls, it would, be horrible, but it would be awful probably for that person too. I don't believe that anybody intentionally, unless they're an absolutely horrible person, intentionally would try to neglect or hurt an animal that is, in somebody's care. But again, accidents happen. People don't often care for your dogs like you do. So with that, that's why I get, paranoid sometimes. And, when we talked about going on this family vacation, I was like, okay, we're going to go to Tennessee. It's going to be 94 degrees each day. We need to plan for this. So Lola, I knew Lola would be okay. Lola, we have a great boarding facility here. They took great care of her. She was out in daycare every day. They did a wonderful job with Lola. We ended up taking the girls with us to Tennessee. Now, this is where my review is going to come in. So we knew that the first day that when we got to Pigeon Forge, we were going to be going to, it's called the Island. There's an island in Pigeon Forge. It has a bunch of shops and this nice little Ferris wheel and so forth. Really nice. We got there and it was extremely hot. Now, I did plan for this and I got the girls a stroller because A, Coco doesn't often like to walk. But with that being said, A, it was 94 degrees, and B, the pavement was was really hot as well. So it was nice to be able to throw them in a stroller and they could ride. But then also, I noticed that when we were out there, it was still really hot for them. So I kind of, made the sacrifice of let the family go and shop. I'll take them back, to the hotel where they can be nice and cool. And then we kind of switched up later and so forth. So the next day was our day when the family went to Doggywood. And we had Doggywood offers this service. And at Doggywood, they have what's called Doggywood. And it's right outside of Doggywood. It's part of Doggywood, but it's called Doggywood. It's a boarding facility. They have 4 what they call cottages, which are a little bit nicer. suites, and then they have, I want to say there was like 5 or 6 like kennel areas, and maybe there was 10 of them because there were some on the other side as well, but they had kennel areas as well. So when we knew that we were going to Dollywood months ago, I had went in and I booked the girls in one of the nicer suites in Doggywood, and I was, all set with that. That way they could be in one of the nicer suites, paid extra. We got to Pigeon Forge on Sunday. The Friday before, Doggywood had contacted me and left me a message and said, hey, we have a bit of an issue. Well, anytime I hear a boarding facility call me with a bit of an issue, that scares me a little bit. So I contacted them back, and they said the suites that I booked the girls in, they were too heavy. I guess they weighed too much to be in the suites. So the suites in Doggywood, the nicer suites, the dogs have to be under 20 pounds. I did not know that. So the girls could not be in the nicer suites. And I was like, okay, well, this is horrible, because now, this was Friday. We were going to Dollywood on Monday. The whole place Doggy was all booked up. I started to panic.
Oh my God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure?
Stay calm!
Because what do, right? And, they initially told me, well, we can try to switch out a dog, from one of the kennels. You guys could have a kennel, and we'll switch out a dog into, they could have one of your suites, and vice versa. And they said, worst case scenario, we can put them in crates. Well, we were going to be at Dollywood for hours. There was no way that I was going to put them in a crate for hours. First of all, Coco would have lost her ever-loving mind. Coco does not, ever since we adopted her, she just freaks out over being crated. I don't know what it is, but she just, and I told the lady that, I said, I can't do that to her. On top of her being deaf and everything else, I was not going to crate her. So I said, we got to figure something out. So anyways, the lady at Doggywood said, well, let me see what we can do. Well, in the meantime of her seeing what she could do, I'm kind of internally panicking because here it's Friday. We were leaving for Dollywood on Sunday morning, and I'm panicking because I don't know what we're going to do. And so something in me, said, well, look online and see, maybe is there another local boarding facility? Is there something, that, I can get in the meantime? Because if it came down to crating, I had to do something else, because we already had tickets to Dollywood. We already had plans set. So anyways, so I searched and searched, and I looked at a bunch of different boarding facilities. And I was trying to look at reviews online. There were some reviews, but, I was kind of going back and forth. The girls had never been in a daycare facility before, so I wasn't sure, especially, again, Coco being deaf, I didn't know how she would handle it. Rosie is a social butterfly. She can kind of adapt to anything. Rosie's also been in, she's been in dog school, and, she's been in all over the place. So Rosie, I didn't really worry about. Coco, I just worried about her mostly being, I don't know, scared. I didn't really worry about her being, she's not an aggressive dog at all. I just worried about her maybe being scared. But anyways, just, I really didn't know what to expect, basically. All I knew was that my plans were thrown off, which threw me off a little bit. So anyway, so in the meantime, I'm kind of looking through all these reviews, and I came across this one place, and I was looking at it and looking at it, and I kept going back to it and reading, and I'm like, okay, this one boarding facility, they have a daycare all day. You could do either half daycare, you could do a full daycare. And then I'll tell you, I'm not going to lie, the one thing that sold me was they had pictures, and they had a picture, and then there was information that the one owner owned a French bulldog. And I'm like, hey, sold. You know, somebody that owns a French bulldog, A, knows how crazy they are, but B, knows about, how, their needs, especially at the heat and all that good stuff. So I'm like, A, sign me up, right? So I filled out the information online, and I was hoping and praying that we could at least get them in, and got all the information completed. And Doggywood called back, and Doggywood said, hey, we're able to switch the girls out to the kennel, and they can have a kennel, and so all right. I was like, all right, well, I've got them in a kennel. And then I thought, well, what about the next day? The next day we're going out all day, and we kind of just planned on maybe keeping them in the hotel room. But I thought, well, let me try this daycare facility. I thought, well, they looked great, and why not try them out and see how they would be. I don't know. I've never had them and something like that. And again, the website looked great. Everything looked wonderful. So filled it out and signed them up for all day daycare. The next day, that was at Saturday. They contacted me, said that they just needed a couple items with regards to their shot records, which I got all for just required vaccinations. They just needed rabies, the DHLPP, and the Bordetella, which was wonderful. We already had those. But you could do half-day daycare. You could do full-day daycare, which you could drop them off at 7:30 at night, or I'm sorry, 7:30 in the morning, and then you pick them up by 5:30. And I was like, all right, sold, because that gives us enough time to go and run around all day, and so forth. So, all right, fast forward to the day at Dollywood. We go, and Doggywood is nice. Not gonna lie, Doggywood is I mean, it's a boarding facility basically. You go, you walk in, you sign in. They took my license. They said that I could come in as many times as I wanted to let them out, to feed them. And then, we walk them back there, and it was just like a regular kennel setting. I put them back in there, which kind of broke my heart a little bit. And just knowing that they would be in the kennel all day as we're running around. It was extremely hot, but then I also felt good because it was air conditioned in there, and I knew that they would be safe. And then we went to Dollywood. Now, Dollywood is, it's a big place. So there's a lot of, walking around. And ideally, I went back, once, I think once or twice, to go and let them out. But I mean, the place is big, Dollywood is a good size, and Doggywood is all the way at the front of the entrance. It's 95, 98 degrees out that day. There was a heat advisory. So it was kind of a pain in the butt to have to, go and walk all the way to the front to go and let the girls out. And go and then feed them and so forth. So, but I wasn't not going to do it because, I love them, and I want to make sure that, they were okay, and checked on them and all that good stuff. So, so we did that. But I'm not going to lie. It was hard. It was, it was challenging to have to, stop the day and then, be like, tell my family, you guys go on. I'm going to go check on the girls or walk the girls. So, and again, no, no disrespect to Doggywood. It was very clean. The people were extremely nice. Everything was nice. It's just a standard boarding facility, and it's nice if you're staying there, or if you're in the park, and you can keep them there all day from the time you get there till 11 o'clock at night, till they close, or 9 o'clock at night when they close. So it's wonderful. You can keep them there all day, and they're safe, and life is good. So that part is good. I guess personally, because I know my because I know my dogs and I spoil my dogs, and I'm one of those people. I mean, they're there, and I didn't feel like, I don't know, I just didn't feel like they were happy just sitting in a cage all day. But whatever, it is what it is. It was what it was. They were safe. Bottom line is they were safe. They were clean. They were fed. They were in a cool environment, which is what I paid for and what I needed. So, the family had a good day. Like I said, everybody was safe. So that was good. So it served its purpose. So the next day we went to the daycare facility. Now the daycare facility was a place, it's called the Wag Social. So the Wag Social, it's listed as a luxury dog boarding, day camp, and they also have grooming as well. We went there, and it was maybe like, I don't know, 10 minutes from our hotel. I was nervous again. I was nervous again because I'm a weirdo about my dogs. So, they say that they told me, they said they do a personality test. So when we go there, we check them in. They took the girls back to do a personality test, which means that they I guess they let the dogs in a room one at a time with other dogs to make sure that they get along. They did tell me that if for some reason they had an issue where they didn't pass the personality test, they would still take the girls. They would just put them in like a boarding area where they had a boarding suite, which would be like a kennel. But the difference is their kennels, and I'll explain this a little bit more. What they would do is if they didn't pass a personality test in the doggy daycare, they would put them in one of their kennels. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. But anyways, so we got there, we were greeted by the staff. The building was beautiful when we pulled up. Even my family, they were like, wow, this is a really nice place. Beautiful place. So we go in, greeted by the staff, amazing. Talked to a young lady named Ariel. She also was a French Bulldog owner. Her dog's name was Chucky, who happened to be in the room with one in the daycare room with the girls, which I'll put a picture up. But she was explaining to me that there are 3 different daycare rooms, which was wonderful. They have a large daycare room for larger dogs, and they have the medium one and a small dog room. We talked about that, about the different, sometimes like my Lola is a senior dog. She's considered a large dog, but she can't really be in with bigger dogs because she's older. Sometimes larger dogs are higher energy. So we would put Lola more with the, medium dogs, or maybe the slower dogs. And, and that's what they do as well. If they have dogs that are maybe shyer or maybe senior dogs that aren't as active, they may put them in a smaller group or with the smaller dogs that aren't as active or as rambunctious, which is wonderful, which is actually very responsible, because you don't want overly rambunctious dogs overbearing on senior dogs, and vice versa. You don't want big dogs over rambunctious on little dogs. To me, it was, you know, being a dog owner, and I've been a dog owner for many, many years. That is the most ideal and responsible boarding situation I've seen in a long time. And I've boarded, dogs for a very, very long time. A lot of times they just throw them all in together, and I'm like, ugh. Or they'll just go, small and large, and it just can be disastrous that way. So this is one of the very first times I've seen a boarding facility that was smart about how they actually board their pets. To me, they really cared about their clientele, and that showed, which again made me feel, a whole lot easier, put my mind at ease. So anyways, talking to Ariel about that, one young lady had taken the girls back for the personality test. Within, 5 minutes, she came back and she said, "Oh, they're doing just fine. They passed. They were fine." When we were checking in, Ariel had asked if we had, ever been there before, or this is our first time. I explained that we were in there from out of town, and she's like, "Oh, let me show you our facility." And so she took us back. We were able to see the different rooms, which was great for me because I love dogs, so I got to see all the dogs, and of course I got to see the 2 French bulldogs, and which was just made my heart sing. And then so she showed me the two daycare rooms. So I got to see the girls playing, and then she walked me down the hall where they have the luxury kennel suites. And I will tell you what, I mean, these kennel suites were beautiful. They really were. They were kept clean. Even she was telling me that they were in the process of cleaning them, but I mean they were really clean. I mean, everything, the whole facility was clean. Again, the staff was extremely nice. She was showing me how, in order to get through the doors, there has to be you have to put in a keypad in order to get through the doors. We went through one of the back gates. She said the same thing. Like, if one of the dogs happens to get through one of the kennel doors, they can't get out another door without, there has to be a key punch. And, everything was just so clean, so secure. And on top of that, you could just see even the staff that was in with in the daycare areas, because they had 2 staff members in the daycare areas. You could just see how much they care for these animals. But the extra protection with, making sure the dogs don't get out. I know that in Ohio, we've had a couple incidences where animals have gotten out at boarding facilities. And, that's awful. And granted, I've got mixed feelings on that, because I don't know those, owners. I don't know those owners, I don't know them, but I do know that if you own a facility like that, you obviously care about animals and love animals. And to have something like that happen, it's got to be awful, and it's got to be an awful feeling. So I can't imagine that people feel great when bad things happen. So, anyways, but yeah, this facility takes extra time in what they do. They have extra measures to make sure your dogs are safe. She was telling me about the different water breaks, and she was saying that if animals get over, if they're really playing themselves out, they they may give them a timeout, to make sure that they cool down. it just, it put my mind so at ease where I didn't worry 1 minute. I mean, walking out of there, not a care in the world. Like, you would have thought, like, even, my husband was like, he's like, you're not worried? I said, not at all. I walked out of there going on with my day, not worried at all about the girls. And for me, that's a huge thing. For me, to not worry about their well-being is huge. And I can't say that I was that way at Doggywood at all. I was pretty much on edge most of the day at Doggywood. I wish that I had boarded them. I'm sorry, I wish that I had them at Doggy Daycare at the Wag Social instead of taking them to Doggywood. I wish I had known about that then. I know that we plan on probably doing this family trip, again, maybe this year, or maybe, like, this is a yearly trip. I will definitely use the Wag Social. I'm going to have their information up. I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to put everything about them, their Instagram, their Facebook, and put all of their contact information, because if you're going to Pigeon Forge, or you're going, if you're going into that area and you want to spend the day out with your family, it was $35. It was $35 per dog to go all day with my family, and they took the best care of my dogs. And again, to have peace of mind and not have to worry about them is priceless to me. That is priceless to me, and to me, it's worth it. So, if you're going to that area, hands down, I would definitely look into the Wag Social. And again, I will tell anybody that is going to the Pigeon Forge area, please look them up. Look them up, contact them, use them. Again, they also do grooming, boarding. They had told us too, here was another thing, they had said that, if for some reason we weren't done with our day at 5:30, that, they had room where the girls could stay overnight and we could get them the next day. So they said, just give us a call, and, they had they could keep them overnight and board them overnight. So, and I was like, that's amazing. And I wouldn't even worry about keeping them there overnight, because the way that their kennels were set up, they have regular large kennels that have a door that's open all day long, a little outside door so the dogs can go in and out all day long. And I believe she said that they only close them at nighttime, and I believe like if there's storms and things like that. But yeah, so they have the ability to go in and out all day long, and then the outside is like a fake grass area. But I mean, and it was such a large area, so they have room to move around, and it was great. It was just absolutely great. So, like I said, I will post pictures, I will post videos, I will post pictures of the girls, and at the end of the day, on the website they had pictures of the girls from that day. They gave me a report card with who the girls were playing with, how they did, how they responded to things. But hands down, one of the best boarding facilities I have seen and I have dealt with, especially, again, the Doggy Daycare was amazing. So if you are going to the Pigeon Forge area, definitely check out the Wag Social. Definitely for any of your boarding needs, for any of your, if you're going all day daycare, check them out. Again, if you have, if you're doing grooming, they've got great grooming, day camp grooming, boarding. Staff was amazing. The place is beautiful. So check them out, and they were reasonable. That's another thing too. They were reasonable. I'm a big price person as well. Granted, the girls, I pay anything for the girls, but they're, again, they were reasonable. Everything was very reasonable. It was comparable to Doggywood. So, but again, I'm going to post all this up there. I'm going to post some videos. I'm going to post some pictures as well. And till next time, if you don't have a friend, you have one now. Please hit that comment, like, and subscribe button. Thanks for stopping by. Take care. Bye-bye.
Let's go!